So the original Poor People's Campaign that Martin Luther King Jr., that the Southern Christian Leadership Conference organized, didn't include the issue of ecological devastation because, of course, back then it wasn't really talked about very much. It wasn't such a huge issue as it is today. Why is this issue something that you want Americans to see as a moral issue?
Mhm. Well, one thing is true is in this nation, we have seen that the poorest of our citizens live in the most deplorable conditions. And so I want to state that I am a native of Saginaw, Michigan, which is right next door to Flint, Michigan. And it is 6 years later that my family members, not people that I've heard of or heard stories about, but my own family are still drinking bottled water in Flint, Michigan right now, 6 years later after the Flint water crisis. And it wasn't because they didn't have enough water in Michigan, because we know that Michigan is surrounded by the Great Lakes. You have lakes all around Michigan, but it is because 74.5% of the people in Flint were under the poverty line, and that included poor whites, Black, brown, and First Nation family. And so what they said there in Flint was, because you're poor, we'll switch the water from the Detroit River to the Flint River. And the Flint River was full of lead and different things. Even the plant there, General Motors, would not use the water because it rusted the parts on the cars that they were making. So here it is. Prime example of what this country has said is, if you're poor, we'll put you in the most deplorable areas. We'll make sure that you don't have clean air, clean water, and we'll make sure that you get the brunt of the things that we're creating, because we know that those in power are creating all of the ecological devastations around this world. But it is the poor people who have to live in it and have to be succumbed to these things because they don't have the resources to live in great areas, basically.
This week, the United Nations and the World Health Organization commented on how it was the destruction of nature that causes pandemics like the one we are in, which also is, of course, an issue that disproportionately impacts communities of color and poor Americans, right?
Correct. That is correct. And so it's not it's because of the ozone and things that are being put into it from these companies and places. Right now, we're doing some work with some folks in Cancer Alley, which is in St. James Parish down in Louisiana. And I don't know if you all have seen about this, so please go check this out. The Poor People's Campaign, along with Al Gore and the Climate Reality Project, have been doing some amazing work around the Cancer Alley. But it's companies, Sarsol and other companies, that are building in these parishes. And I mean, we went there and you see all of the pollution that's going into the air at night. And so many people in that area have